Okay, let's get going. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for this opportunity to share with you another BizEssentials webinar. I'm Amy Stark, the Director of Administration for FCSI the Americas. And before we get started, I wanted to give you a couple of announcements and a little bit of information about our webinar practice today. So for today, we're going to do a little bit more Q&A at the end of the session. So if you would like to have a question, please do. As you're going through the webinar today with Ken and James, please think of some questions or comments you want to add, and either use the question and answer button at the bottom of your screen, or you can raise your hand if you see that, and we will get to you at that point in the Q&A time. Also, remember, if you miss anything on the webinar today, or you just want to watch it again, we record all of our webinars and then put them on our website in the BizEssentials webinars page, and you can go back to watch all of the webinars on demand, usually on Friday of each week. So let's get started. This month, our sponsor is LTI, and we're going to let them have a chance to share some thoughts and some information with you.
LTI is proud to welcome you to the FCSI BizEssentials webinar. LTI is a premier manufacturer of modular and custom serving solutions, along with the industry's most innovative serving technologies. For the past 12 months at LTI, we have been very busy changing how food is served. In 2020, we introduced our new Express Line series of counters and transportable carts that allow operators to safely and efficiently serve individually wrapped and packaged foods for all industry segments: K-12, higher education, B&I, and retail segments. Today, for the very first time, we are excited to introduce our UD wall. LTI's new UD wall is faster, easier, and cheaper than traditional millwork or steel counters. This utility distribution wall is precision built at LTI's factory using heavy-duty steel. These walls come in sections and bolted together in field. Once they are bolted, the wall is then fastened to the floor. These sections have cutouts in them for utilities to run through: electrical lines, water supply, gas, refrigeration lines, and even data cable can run through the chase plate. All connection points are easily accessible on the rear side of the wall that is lined with stainless steel. An optional UL-listed electrical load center can be installed at the factory by LTI, so there would only be one point of connection to the building power. The front of the wall can be finished in-house by LTI or a contractor in the field. LTI can supply decorative laminates or veneers, tile, or any other decor required. The front panels can even be made removable to allow for complete access to the utilities running through the wall. The wall can be configured with a stainless steel top or solid surface or quartz top. The top can be full length or partial sections, leaving an opening for mobile equipment to be easily rolled in and out to allow for maximum flexibility and ease of cleaning. LTI serving technologies such as the patented Quick Switch, Tempest Air cold pans, or the new waterless thermal well hot wells can be dropped into these tops, and LTI's food shields can be installed onto the wall, completing the perfect UD wall that will provide service for many years and allow changing of equipment a breeze in order to meet the demands of your customers now and in the future. LTI is changing how food is served.
Okay, thank you again, LTI, for sponsoring this month's webinar. So now I'd like to welcome two people who probably don't need any introduction to all of you. Welcome to both James Camacho and Ken Schwartz. Take it away, guys.
Thank you. We appreciate that. And I'd like to say thank you to our sponsor, to LTI. I've known them for many, many years. In fact, they are one of our preferred fabricators. So they pretty much get on almost every job that goes out of here. So we're glad they're here. Just real quick, I wanted to give you a little bit of why and how this has all come about. Years ago, in talking with Wade and then with Ken and others, I had an idea about how can we as consultants and food service consultants generate additional revenue outside of our typical design or MAS services? Um, and it's something that I happened upon a few years back doing some projects, and I decided we needed to share, because our tagline is what we support, we inspire, we share. So we want to share today. um, and our goal is not for this to become the James and Ken show or the Ken and James show. Y'all heard from us way too much over the last few years, so we want this to be something that's open to everybody, that y'all will get involved, that you'll, tell us things that you're doing, not doing, that kind of thing. But it came about as, again, back in 2008, 2009, when everything was really kind of slowed. I was looking at what can we do as our company to generate additional revenue, and we came up with an idea that we're going to share with you today. And then in 2017, on another project, we brought in another part of that. And this is not something new for us, and it's not something new for our clients. Look at architects. They are construction managers now. They have engineering as part of their firms, the interiors, and on and on. And I mean, in their conferences, and I've been to AIA conferences over the years, excuse me, they have breakout sessions like this, which is what Ken and I were going to do in Austin this year. But, unfortunately that didn't work out, but we are here now. And so, Ken, I'll just throw it over to you and let you say a few too, and then we'll get into the meat of things.
Oh, super. Thanks, James. And thanks, Amy and LTI. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining the show. As James mentioned, our firms clearly do things a little bit differently. But the whole premise of this little discussion today is how can we share what we're doing in terms of additional revenue generation, and additional meaning outside of maybe the traditional design firm or MAS firm, and kind of how we're doing things differently. And, maybe it'll inspire some of you to not only think about the work that you're doing and the clients that you have, but perhaps there's greater opportunity right in front of you that you just haven't realized yet. So James, I'll let you take it away.
Well, thank you again. As Amy mentioned too, if you've got a question, send it out, raise your hand, get somebody's attention, and we'll bring you in. I mean, we want this to be a discussion kind of format, as we would normally do at conference at one of our breakouts. And we're not looking for secrets. If you do something that nobody else does and you don't want to tell, that's fine. I mean, this is just a sharing thing, that it's ideas that our other members can possibly use to help, with their business. So your participation and your ideas are always welcome. But as I mentioned, back in 2008, 2009, when everything just seemed to be going down right then, we were looking to see what we could do to try and draw additional people in, or additional revenue to the company. And we came up with an idea of doing capital gains planning, capital outlay planning for clients. And we had a school system that came to us, and we were talking to them, or they didn't come to us, we were just talking to them one day when we were working on a project about how they plan things out. And they said, well, when a refrigerator dies, we buy one. Every now and then we may need a couple of convection ovens, so we buy 2 of them during the summertime or something. And I'm going, how do you plan for that? They go, it dies, we buy one. Okay. So I just started thinking about it, and we came up, and I'm going to try and share here and see if I can get that to work out. Let's see, did that come up?
It did.
Oh, okay, great. There it is. I'll pull it over in front of me, and maybe, well, no, that won't work. I need to keep it here since it's on another screen. But what we came up with was doing an equipment inventory and assessment report. And basically that started out, now this is one we did for a hotel, But the one we originally did for the school was they had a good list of all the equipment and when it was bought for every school. And we did elementary, middle schools, high schools. And we would go in and look at the major equipment they had, manufacturers. And in this case, we did know model numbers. So that report had model numbers as well, when it was bought. And we did a lot of research to try and to determine what the estimated lifespan was on a refrigerator, on a mixer, on an oven, a range, and it's different per project as you're working on it. But we were able to kind of estimate, the remaining lifespan. And then, and this one's just a little bit different. I'm sorry, that report I could not find the older one because it was stretched out across the 14 by 11 page. But we would look at the replacement cost of today, and then we would tell them, we'd estimate maybe an escalation of 3-4% per year, so that they could look at this sheet of paper and say, okay, in 5 years, we've got to plan $85,000 in replacement equipment or $185,000, depending on what it was. But it gave them that capital planning that the superintendent was really happy to get, because at least that way, from a total budget wise of what they were looking at for their whole school system, they could really kind of plan that out. So that's what we did then, and then we have worked that out sometimes with hotels and corporate facilities as well, where they don't know how they're going to be able, they don't know what they need to plan. So helping them to develop this capital outlay plan, I think, was something that helped. And it, back in 2009, 2010, that's what we needed. One of our other additional areas we looked at was becoming the owner's representative. And I'm going to flip over here for just a second. Let's see if I can make this one work too. This was a project we did with Georgia State University, GSU, and it's a dining hall. And the equipment was going to go out for bid under the general contractor. And they realized that it was a $1.4 million bid at 7%. They were looking at $98,000 basically in sales tax they were going to have to pay. Because it was also, it's back up just a second, it's a developer driven project. Okay. So that they were going to have to pay sales tax. Sometimes on your state projects, they don't have to, but on this one, they were going to have to. And so we started talking with them about it and came up with a plan of, let us be your owner's rep for this. We'll put it out for bid separately from the general contractor. We'll evaluate the bids, go over everything with them. Once you get all everything worked out and the paperwork, we'll be on the owner architectural contractor meetings. We'll be your representative there. We'll be on the site constantly. For factory visits. These counters, as you're seeing, these were purchased by, these were fabricated by BSI. We actually went out to the factory before they shipped and looked at them to make sure that everything was done right. And there were things that we had to stop and say, wait a minute, go back, we need to clean this up or do that. And so by the time it was ready to ship and it got here, it was fine. I mean, and you don't ever get that on a project with counters this size, with this large. So, I mean, I just wanted to show just a couple of those. Out of that $98,000 that we did save them, our fee ended up being a little bit under 40%. Which was not bad for just doing what we were doing. Hello, Mr. Wade. How are you, sir? Good seeing you. We are actually trying to negotiate with another school system right now, a local school system, to do this for them, because they are being asked to buy separately. And the director, she can put things out for bid, but once from there, who does the coordination with the contractor, with the other, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing trades, who's out there on the job site. She doesn't know what to do. So again, this is one we're trying to negotiate this other contract now with. So just a couple of little things here that we've been able to do over the years, again, to just outside the normal design, outside normal MAS, to just try and drive a little bit more revenue home. So Ken, I'm gonna let you jump in on that now.
Thanks, James. Hi, everyone. So a couple of things that we do that are a little different. I'm going to attempt to share my screen with you guys. Let me know when you can see it. Yep, super. So I'm going to go down a list of a couple of things that we do differently. And bear with me one sec. So a couple of things that we do differently, in addition to design, we also offer business consulting services. And so our business consulting services can be several different things. They can be kind of project lookbooks, project theme books. And I'm going to show you, this is one of them, and I'll take you through it. We also do financial pro formas, potential revenue streams, operational costing, et cetera. And then we actually do project cost analysis. And I'm going to show you one of those also. Additionally, we do a thing that we call disposition plans. A lot of people in the industry know them as built drawings, and it's a service that we offer. And I know there are probably a lot of consultants on this call that are thinking, why on earth would we ever do as-built plans and take responsibility for any of that? And how we actually realized that there was an opportunity is we were working on a very, very large resort. It was a total of about 4 million square feet. And it had about 17 different F&B venues. And they were going to renovate the entire property. And we were doing a walkthrough. We sat down and had a meeting. And they kind of went through all of the new food and beverage venues that they wanted, which did not include keeping any of the existing. And we said, well, why wouldn't we give you a proposal to do a set of as-built plans, which would include disposition of the equipment? And they said, well, why would we want to do that? And I said, well, because I can walk around here and not everything here is trash. There's a lot of good equipment left here. And so they asked us to give them a proposal, which we did. And I'll share with you guys, it was about $150,000. But we had multiple venues to get through. And they said, no, this is a little too rich for us. And I said, wait a minute, let's take a couple of steps back. And I pointed a few pieces of equipment to them. I said, see that mixer, see that tilting skillet, see that slicer, see that 3-compartment sink. And I just started to add up what the replacement cost would be for those items if they purchase new. And I said, these things still have valuable life left in them. And that's times maybe 50 or another 100 items like it. Why wouldn't you do this? So they said, okay, let's do it. So we had 8 people go to the property, and we spent 5.5 days there doing nothing but taking 3D photos and inventorying all of the equipment. Now, the nice thing was on this particular project, because everything was going to kind of get gutted and redesigned, they actually had a company who came in who 3D scanned the entire property and actually created a 3D Revit file from their scan. So we actually had like a baseline to start with, including all of the information that we got. But then our documents, when we got all of this stuff into plan and with a schedule, then the scheduling was simple, right? We would give it items a status code, and a status code, let's say A, for example, would be that the item has useful life, reuse in its current location. B, has useful life to be reused at some other location. And C, the item was trash and it was time to get rid of it. And so part of also what we did when we went and inventoried it, we put little colored stickers on all the equipment. We numbered each one in sequence. And so we had a red sticker, a yellow sticker, and a green sticker. If it was green, it was trash and ready to go. If it was yellow, it was something that we intended to reuse, but reuse in a different location, meaning it could be disconnected and stored. And if it was red, it meant don't touch it, leave it exactly where it is. Our intent is to reuse it in that location. So we offer these kind of as-built services on large renovation projects because otherwise they don't know what to do with everything that's there. And again, there's a lot of equipment that has great useful life left, and it's a business opportunity for our firm. So something to think about. I don't have any samples of that to show you. It'd just be boring equipment plans. So I didn't tee up any of that. But what you see on the screen, this is one of our concept lookbooks. So this thing, Marge de Champions, this is a client that we were doing a large resort for that is next to the USTA Tennis Center over in Orlando. And so they want to build a resort that is like very sports oriented, very health oriented, because a lot of athletes will stay on this property when they're competing in tournaments at the USTA. And so one of the things they said is, we don't know that we necessarily, with all the other restaurants that we have, we want to maybe forego our 3-meal-a-day restaurant, but we don't know what to do. Maybe it's a food hall, maybe it's not. We don't know what that could look like or what it could feel like. So we said, why don't we put together a concept book? So we put together a concept book. It doesn't include any drawings, and there is no intent that it in any way depicts interior design, right? We don't want to step on the toes of our architects or of our interior designers. What we want to do is put together a mood book or a look book as to how this thing could operate and what it may look like and what it may feel like. So I'm just going to scroll through a few of these pages. And what you see here, we put this entire document together. So we talk about what this kind of modern culinary social hall could be. We talk about the ebb and flow of venues that can be open at breakfast and the things that are open midday and what's open at dinner, and then perhaps what's open late night. And then we take it by meal period. And again, everything you see in here, right? We found photos of really great images, and we put all of this together. And as you look at this, the final result is, wow, this doesn't look like it's that hard to put together. This was 12 pages. I think our fee was around $28,000 to put this together and present it. I mean, we did some research, and there's some other things that go along with it. But here's a great revenue boost to a firm, right? If you did 10 of these a year, all of a sudden, right, it materially changes your bottom line. The other thing I want to share with you is we also put together revenue pro formas. Did the screen change? Did you guys see a change? Okay, super. So this thing says Fnb Financial Pro Forma. So this is a pro forma that we put together for a hotel client, a large hotel. And I'll share this with you, right? Current projected revenue, gross F&B revenue, $67 million. And how this came to be, we did not present doing this at first, right? We were, I probably should show you this next slide. I'm going to show you this next slide. I'll apologize. I'm going to come back to this. So this was the cost estimate that we did for the client. So this was in the pre-development phase, and this is in the schematic design phase. And you can see that the traditionally purchasing the equipment was at $9.5 million. And then when we went into schematic design, the program changed a little bit, but the equipment was still about $7.5 million. And we presented that to the client, and the client went, oh my God, Chicken Little, the sky is falling. That's more money than we ever planned to spend on the food service equipment. And we said, well, wait a minute, what did you anticipate spending? Well, we didn't know, but we didn't think it was going to be that much. And I said, well, let me ask you this. What is your revenue potential for the food service operations? And they said, well, we don't know yet. And I said, well, why don't we take a look at putting that together to see if it adds justification to the spend on the equipment? And they said, can you do that? We said, sure. So we put this together. What you're seeing on the screen now is the compilation of the work. So we take venue by venue. So this is the 3-meal-a-day restaurant. This is days of the week. This is breakfast, lunch, dinner, late night, et cetera, et cetera. We put in price points. I'll zoom in so you can see these, right? So cost of beverage, cost of entree. This is breakfast. This is lunch. dinner, and we do that for each of the venues. So it's just a matter of filling in the information. All of that information rolls up into this compilation report. So we put all of this together venue by venue, had a meeting with the client, and we took them through each of these venues. And we said, do you think the 3 meal a day will do this? And their culinary and their ops team and executive team said, yeah, we feel like that's doable. Looked at the kids club, same thing, the lobby bar, room service, all of these different F&B outlets, we actually modeled into a spreadsheet and got them to agree to all of the revenue. And then we actually went back to the first page and showed them what the compilation looked like. And we said, okay, at $7.5 million in food service equipment, you should easily be able to produce 67 million in gross revenue, which you've already agreed you can do because you agreed to it venue by venue by venue. For this effort, we charged a fee. For the effort of actually putting together a cost analysis, we got a fee. So these are all things that we can do and we do it every single day, that add revenue to our firm. The other piece in here, and I'll share this with you, I don't want to spend too much time on it today because it's a whole nother topic in and of itself, is as James mentioned about becoming the owner's rep. So one of the services that we provide our clients is a direct purchasing service. And there's probably been some rumblings around the industry about it. We've actually been doing it for about 12 or 15 years, where we have been the client's liaison to manage their relationship directly with the manufacturers to allow them to purchase direct. And we have people within our firm that are project managers that manage the entire process from developing the purchase orders for the client for every manufacturer, transmitting those to the manufacturers, contracting on behalf of the client with the installation company, with the logistics company, and literally acting as the owner's rep, or in our case, it's a purchasing service where we charge a fee to manage the entire process. And by doing that, we've eliminated 2 elements out of the, well, maybe 3, if depending on how you look at it. So we've taken the general contractor out of the equation, we've taken the food service equipment dealer out of the equation, and we've taken the buying group out of the equation. And the result is our firm finds some extra scope that we can charge a fee for. And the win-win is that the client gets incredible savings to purchase exactly what they would have purchased anyway. And I can tell you guys, the savings for the client is somewhere between 16 and 22%. So the savings is significant. When you look at this spreadsheet that we're showing here, this is traditional purchase method 7.8, and this is direct purchasing 1.6 million. The savings is 21.73%, and we've priced that item by item by item. And so it's very, very hard for a client to ignore the savings, which then makes our position in the equation extremely valuable to the client. So I wanted to share that with you. I will tell you, the direct purchasing is not, hey, here's all this extra revenue and we really don't have to do that much work. It's quite a bit of work. But I will tell you, you already have the client base, and some of those clients you can easily convert to somebody that you can manage that part of their project for an additional fee without necessarily having to go out and find additional clients or additional work. And you're providing an incredible value to your firm as well as to the client. And I got to tell you, I think more and more the manufacturers are seeing big value in that as well. So that's my 2 cents worth. I will leave it at that. And maybe James, do you have anything else, or do we want to go to questions? James?
I was being good and turned my mic off there, but
oh. I was like, maybe mine went out. I don't know.
Hello, Bueller.
Yes.
No, hello, Wade. How are you, sir?
Hello there. Sorry I'm late.
That's all right. Better than never. Anyway, so no, I think let's just see if there's any questions or comments or things that people have. You know, what are you doing different? You know, are other consultants doing things that, you know, that you'd be willing to share and ask about or talk about?
Hey, James, I do see a question from the lovely Arlene Spiegel,
Oh, good.
who's asking, for the lookbooks and performers, do you have in-house talent or outsource to design and accounting firms? Thanks, Arlene. We do not. Everything that we do, we produce in-house. So we have people within our firm who have the skill set. I've never really sent my resume to too many people within our industry, but my education is in accounting and architecture and economics. So, and because of my Jewish religion, Arlene, you have to remember, before you can have your bar mitzvah, you have to be able to do long division. So the accounting piece comes very, very easy for me. Anybody else?
I can't say if there's any others, but one other thing I just want to mention too, that we've been fortunate in the past to have people working with us who used to be dealers. So it really helped in going out and looking at some of the existing equipment and working up some of the inventory analysis, and you know, they knew, or they were more familiar with how old or how long equipment lasted before we really needed to start looking at replacing it. So it's been a tremendous help.
You know, James, that's a good point too. And I know, like I see Christine and some of our other fellow consultants in here who I know are heavily, and Steve Carlson, who are heavily involved in healthcare food service, right? And healthcare food service, for those of you who typically don't work in healthcare or on healthcare projects, is a completely different animal, because they are serving at least 3 meals a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And so there is no shutting down anything, right? They still have to, you know, it's not like a country club where, oh, we're going to close on Monday and, you know, we can refit the dish room on Monday. So those really take special consideration. And, you know, James, to your point, to go in, and a lot of times, like, you know, we'll listen to the dietitian or the VP of food and beverage and all that. But we also say, you know what, we want to talk to somebody from your engineering department and your facilities department, because a lot of times when dietary or food and beverage get wind that there's potentially a project, right, they always think that there's a blank check, right? We're going to get rid of everything we have. We're going to start anew. I'm going to get everything new again. Except what they're not realizing is that their VPs, their ownership, the developer, the hospital administrator, all of those people are looking at food and beverage and dietary and going, it's working every day now. You know, why do we have to trash everything and start over? And so I think a lot of times, you know, we can kind of come in and literally be the middleman or middlewoman and say, listen, we're going to take this inventory. We're going to look at what you have, see what still has useful life in it, right? Maybe 2 to 3 years. Because if you think about, you know, maybe it's 6 months or a year to design and another, you know, 6 or 12 or 18 months to renovate or to construct. You know, some of those things really may be at the end of the useful life by then, but some things may still have 3 to 5 years of life left. And so, you know, we tell the food service and dietary departments, listen, let us see what you have that we can all agree that you can reuse, because it's still, it's more money left in the pot of gold that maybe you want that other widget that you've never had before. So a lot of times you can be, you know, the voice of reason with the operations, but also for the administrator. And a lot of people actually really appreciate that. So something to think about it in terms of how we can fit into the equation. I do see we have another question from Autumn. I'll read it if you guys are okay. Okay. Autumn, sorry. Autumn says LTI has interior design and decor vision that provides school cafeterias with design and installation of signage, painting, other decor elements, and furniture. Would food service consultants be interested in providing this service to their architects on K-12 projects? Could this be an area for additional revenue? James, if you don't mind, I'll speak to that a little bit, because we don't really do K through 12, and that's what I'm going to mention. Autumn, we don't really do K through 12, So it wouldn't necessarily be relevant to us, but I think you may be cutting yourself short, right? I do think there are probably other opportunities in maybe arenas or stadiums or convention centers and some of those places where kind of some of your design, build, or turnkey would be very welcome. So I'll let James speak to the K through 12 piece of that.
Yeah. And we do get requests for that now and then. Actually, we're working on one up in North Georgia right at the moment where they're looking to do that. And the architect in this case is doing some things on it, but no, we have reached out to manufacturers in the past like LTI where they do the package systems, and they will come in, and it can be everything from how the tables look to the chairs to the walls, the murals, everything on the soffits above the equipment and the counters, in the serving area. So no, that's definitely something that we can present and have offered before to our clients.
Yeah, and I think looking at that from being able to provide, instead of an interior design, because I do think you kind of compete a little bit with the licensed interior designers in those particular states, but I think more of packaging it into kind of a theming package. I think, from a consultant perspective, right, it's much easier for us to go in and say, right, we have this resource where we can not only design this, but have it themed and do that in conjunction with the interior design and the architecture. That potentially is a benefit to everybody.
Yep. Yep.
Other questions? Anybody?
Let's see. Excellent. Thank you very much. Let's see. I'm just reading through there to see if there was anything there. Here's one. How does FCSI Code of Ethics align with about direct purchasing for clients, also with AIA's Code of Ethics and Professional Conduct? It seems like a gray area like interiors. Is there a potential conflict to be independent? And I'll let you do that.
Thanks, James. Who's that from? Mike. Michael, thanks. Not at all. There is absolutely no conflict. In fact, I will be happy to have Wade confirm that when we really started to think about doing this on a regular basis, one of the very first things I did was go to Wade. And I think the differentiating piece of this is we are not selling food service equipment. We're not marking it up. In fact, we're actually negotiating hard on behalf of our client. Our effort, our work is strictly fee-based that comes directly from the client and nowhere else. In the interior design world, I do think it is a little gray because there are interior design firms who do provide direct purchasing services. And there are actually very, very large scale global companies who do that in the hospitality world. One of the companies that come to mind is a company called Parker out of Miami that if you ever stay at a big hotel or resort, the contractor builds the hotel and resort. Up until FCSI and Ken got involved, the food service equipment contractor was putting in the kitchen. But when you went into the hotel room, mysteriously, there was a bed and a desk and a chair and a lounge chair and art on the wall and lamps on the floor. That's all purchased through a company like Parker. It's all direct purchased on behalf of the client, but a company like Parker manages the purchase, the logistics, the delivery, the uncrating, the installation, the setting in place, punch list, all of that kind of stuff. And that's in essence is exactly what we're doing. So we don't see any conflict there. We've talked about it till we're blue in the face. If anybody has a different perspective on it, I'm happy to discuss it, to debate it. And listen, this is an opportunity for firms to consider. It is a revenue generator for our firm. It allows us to continue to better serve the clients that we have. And this approach may not be for everybody.
And I'll jump in here real quick from the FCSI standpoint. When Ken did come to me, we kind of talked it through with our attorney, and the big differential between being a what people would always refer to as a dealer designer type person or the code of ethics was he's not actually taking ownership of any of the equipment. He's not charging a percentage of the sales. He's not taking commission off of it. They're charging a fee to negotiate and do the install and such, just like you would a fee to design something. So therefore, since it was a fee being charged based on whatever formula SSA has come up with, it's not really a violation of the code of ethics because they're not taking possession of or doing the other parts. That being said, as you get into more and more such or more items for alternative revenues, I was going to say this a little bit later, but I'll say it now. I'd encourage anybody from FCSI, any consultant member, to reach out to me and talk to me about, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. And I've got a handful of people that do this on a regular basis. Thinking about doing this. What are the thoughts on this and how would the code of ethics be impacted by this? And I'm happy to look into it. I will ask around privately if I'm allowed to. Once in a while, I will go to our attorney to get his legal opinion on it. But I'm always happy to be an advisor to that to see whether or not it's going to be a violation of the code of ethics.
Mhm.
It's in our best interest to work with you to try to figure out how to make it the most beneficial financially for any project you do that's not going to violate our independence. So whatever we can do to help, that's what we're here for.
And,
I do
and
see a
that,
couple of, hey, James, I do see a couple of follow-up questions on the direct purchasing.
Oh,
So
yeah.
if we can just hit those and then we'll come back to the other. So I see Tim McDougall said, are they not warehousing said equipment at some point? So, so Tim, I'll share with you lessons learned, right? For any of you who have been to our office, we don't have any storage space. We only store things electronically. So we are not warehousing it. And again, lessons learned, right? There were a lot of cases where we would have equipment delivered to the job site kind of just in time. And what we found was it created a lot of stress for the client. It created a lot of stress for the job site. Um, and it created a lot of additional work for us, right? Logistical work. So what we typically recommend to the client, and through the logistics company that we recommend that the client contract with, who has bonded warehousing all around the country, is that they identify a bonded warehouse close to the job site that all of the equipment ships to, and then the installation crew will go and pick what they need when they need it from the bonded warehouse. So we've overcome that piece of it as well. So no, we are not. And then one of the other questions is, Christine asked, does direct purchasing, do you still bid the equipment out? So yeah, so depending on which pieces the client would like for us to bid out, there are some things where, you know, they may say, I want this widget from manufacturer ABC. No need to get any more price. This is what we use throughout our company. We got it. If there are other pieces of equipment where we'd ask them, would you like us to get competing pricing? We'll reach out to multiple manufacturers and get competing pricing. And all of that pricing is, all of those quotes are direct to the client. They may come through us, but it's all transparent. We sit with the client and go through all of that.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, one thing that I was just going to mention real quick too is we're not we're not just trying to gouge the client or how much more money can we get from them. It's what services that we can offer in a lot of cases to save them money, and we're just getting paid for doing that as well.
Yeah, here's a couple more follow-ups. Who pays
Yep.
the invoice? All invoices are paid by the client. And then there was another follow-up question. Also, you purchase equipment, do you have accounts set up with large manufacturers? We do not. All of the client is set up with the manufacturers, and it says, I understand folks like Hobart will only sell to approved dealers. Well, that is correct and unfortunate for them. So they are not included when we have a client that we're direct purchasing for. They're lost.
Mhm.
So I want to go back up because there were a couple of other questions that we kind of bypassed. Uh-oh. Can I get to those questions, Amy? Can I scroll up to those? Well, here's one. Scott Retano, do you provide any additional services for CA phase of a project, manage the KEC, owner's representative at construction meetings. James, you want to tackle that one
Yeah, that,
first?
yes, and when we're act as the owner's rep, we attend the OAC meetings. And we actually, in one of the cases, we have actually reviewed the purchase orders from the dealer before they were issued to make sure that they did comply with specifications, that everything that we requested as accessories was on there. So yeah, we do that, and we go in as the owner's representative. And this is in addition to our typical reviewing submittals and doing punch lists. Okay.
And yeah, Scott, from our perspective, right? So our basic services relative to a standard design project, we have services and scope within the CA phase, right? Reviewing shop drawings, site meetings, those types of things. We do not manage the KEC. If there's a KEC involved, that management will fall to the general contractor. But relative to direct purchasing, if this is part of your question, owner's representation at construction meetings, whether we're direct purchasing or not, if it comes to food service equipment, then we totally see ourselves as the representative on behalf of the owner relative to food service design and equipment, whether it's a direct purchasing, whether they go through the general contractor or an equipment contractor, we're going to do what we feel is best for the client. Arlene had a follow-up question. Considering all the ancillary services you offer, does it make it difficult to participate in RFP where they limit your scope? And no, Arlene. So we don't pursue projects where I can take all of these different services and go, hey, we want to present a proposal on all of these things. In fact, we almost never talk about direct purchasing in the early part of the relationship. We only start talking about direct purchasing once we start to look at project cost and budgeting. And if you remember that one spreadsheet we put together, we kind of had a column with traditional method of purchase and direct purchasing. That's kind of the first time we share that with them and start to talk to them about direct purchasing when they actually see the potential savings that is available to them. And it gets their interest. And that's when they say, I'd like to know more. So a lot of times, and I'll share this because I didn't mention this before. About half of our projects, we are contracted through a developer or a property manager or an architectural firm. The other half of our clients, we're contracted directly with the client. But on a lot of projects where we're contracted, let's say through an architect, and we offer up direct purchasing, that agreement on direct purchasing is direct with the client. We don't go through the architect. Our billing is directly to the client. Our payment comes directly from the client. We actually cut the architect out of that. And every architect that we're involved with, that we're offering direct purchase to the client, the architects are like, we rather you deal directly with the client on this, which is better for us. We get paid more timely. It's a lot less paperwork. It's a lot less chasing receivables, et cetera.
Yep.
So Arlene, no, we don't really limit our pursuit on RFPs. But the other thing I'll tell you is maybe 1% of our work is based on RFPs. Most of our work comes to us as a referral or a repeat client. So we're not necessarily competing on an RFP.
Mm-hmm.
Tim asked, what's the time frame to get your client set up with direct purchasing? Curious how that impacts the project timeline. Well, Tim, that's a loaded question. Is it a coffee bar going into like a Starbucks coffee bar going into the lobby of a hotel, or is it 17 food and beverage venues going into the hotel? Because clearly the time frame is going to be the design phase of the project is going to be much greater. The construction phase is going to be much greater. We typically start to talk direct purchasing in pre-development. And that's something else I should mention because, sorry, and James, I don't know that you mentioned anything about it either. So a lot of you guys who are in the design world are kind of used to the 5 typical phases, right? Schematic design, design development, construction documents, kind of the bid purchase phase and construction administration. We actually add a phase to that called pre-development, which is before schematic design. And that pre-development is, if it's an existing facility, to go tour the site and get a feel and understanding of the building. If it's a new build, to get into the Revit model and study the model and understand it. It may be pre-development where we're working on doing some square footage programming or even some initial budgeting. We like to be involved as early as possible because we start to capture some of our fee earlier in the process. So, and it works to our advantage because we get a really clear picture of what's going on. We start to get more of a direct communication relationship with the client. And that's when we actually start to talk about direct purchasing. So it kind of evolves as the relationship evolves. And I'll tell you guys something else regarding to the direct purchasing. It's not for every client, right? So we pick and choose which clients we want to offer that to. We don't offer it on any project that's under $1 million just because it's kind of admin heavy. And we typically offer it to clients who we know have the financial wherewithal to fund it, because the terms are actually pretty strict. Half down with the order and the other half when it's ready to ship before it ever leaves the manufacturer. So there's really no credit involved. There's no risk for the manufacturer. But a lot of clients don't have that wherewithal, or they're slow at paying their bills. We don't want to include them in that equation because they can potentially affect direct purchasing relationships between other clients and manufacturers. So we're pretty picky about who we offer that to.
Well, I think we need to stop it right there with our questions. This has
Hey,
been
Amy,
great.
one quick one, because this is really good. So,
Okay.
Tara
got one right at
asked,
the end.
yeah. Have you received pushback from KECs on with your non-direct purchasing projects? Tara, so we have not. So, for example, and James, you can talk about Camacho. In 2019, we completed about 250 design projects. Only about 12 of those were direct purchase. The rest went back out to the industry for traditional purchasing. So there's a lot of our projects that still go out on the street, and we want them to go out on the street. Some of them may be public money projects that there's no opportunity to direct purchase anyway. So there's plenty for everybody. The other piece, have you had to purchase any additional insurance? No, because we're still just offering a service, right? It's still part of our service. And our insurance, like our liability and errors and omission, is based on our gross revenue. So as our fees go up, yeah, our insurance goes up, but our coverage is still the same. So thanks, you guys. And hey, thanks everybody for listening.
Yep. That was good. And the other thing, I just, Ken has talked about this in the past, and we've had drinks and sat around and talked about things like this and just shared stuff. And that's what we've always wanted with FCSI, is to be able to do this with other members. It's not like it used to be where this is my rocket science group here and I'm never going to share. It's not like that in the digital world anymore. We know what's going on. The one thing I did want to mention too is like joint ventures. We have tried and have done joint ventures with other members who may have different experiences, different set of unique expertise, let's say, for projects that we don't. That's something else that you got to look at. Don't just say, I've got to do all this by myself. Reach out to Ken, reach out to Tara or Tim or whoever and say, can you help us do this if we're going after this job?
James, that's a good point. And real quickly, I'll just share, there are people on this call, I see your names, and there are a couple of you guys, a couple of firms that we've joint ventured with on work, and some of it we've done quietly on their title block. Some of it's just been design of a certain area, or maybe construction administration, because they were closer than we were closer. So we should be helping each other. James makes a good point. When we started 25, 30 years ago, no FCSI members would ever talk to us about anything. And I think, we're making ourselves available to maybe to whoever want to listen, but we want you guys to all be better and stronger, because I think it helps all of us as a whole.
Absolutely.
I have got to run. I got to get on another call. Thanks, everybody. I will talk to you later.
All
Thank
right.
you, Ken. We appreciate it. So,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
and thank you, Amy and Wade, for having setting this up for us all. It's been great. And other questions that you may have, if you want to shoot them to me, shoot them to Ken. You know, we'll help you how we can. We just think it's important that we all get together and talk about things like these. You know, because we may know how to lay out kitchens or how to do reports from an MAS standpoint, but do you know about all these different things and how to run a business? You know,
Right.
that's something I've always tried to push that FCSI did for its members. So
Yes.
thank you.
Yes. Well, thank you very much. And thank you all for joining us today. I did want to follow up with just a reminder that this webinar will be available on our YouTube channel or through our website, probably by Friday. Also want to remind you to join us for happy hour this month. It's March 24th at 5 p.m. Eastern. And finally, don't forget about the On Tap podcasts, which are premiered every Tuesday. And Arlene Spiegel is actually our featured guest this week. So take a look at those. Again, YouTube On Tap is on Spotify also, and Apple Podcasts, if you'd like to listen and not watch. So take advantage of all those opportunities. Take advantage of rewatching this webinar if you would like in the future. Share it with your colleagues. And we will see you later this month. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll see
Bye,
everybody
guys.
soon.